views expressed in the following show are of the host, the guest, and the callers. The content of the following show, its accuracy, authenticity, and the ramifications of the use or application of said content is the responsibility of those speaking and listening, not the broadcast medium.
All right, we are back and we are live. Feet to Fire. I am Feet to the Fire. See, Feet to Fire sounds, it's the abbreviation, but Feet to the Fire. I'm your host, James Althianchik, the Black Knight of Talk Radio, and to year 16, as it says over there. All right, sorry about last week. I tell you, since I've been in the hospital, I have I've had a great immune system. And it has taken a whack, I guess, from all those antibiotics. So periodically I would get, I don't know, maybe it's also combined with the so-called bad flu that's going around. But it's an intestinal thing that really kind of hits me. And I had to get up early anyway. So I just went to bed. So, sorry. Also, Less Visible had made a commentary last week. So I was going to play it this week. However, it somehow didn't work as far as uploading. He uploads it to YouTube, and then I pull it down and stick it in, and something happened there. So as of this moment, anyway, I don't have a Less Visible commentary. If it does pop up throughout the night, as it has been wont to do, I will I'll tune into it in a somewhat crude but fashion, but it will come through. A bunch of stuff to go through. Gosh, I was going through my Facebook because a lot of times I put the news items up there. It's simply easier than writing them down or whatever. And a lot of stuff up there I'm just going to bypass because it's now 2 weeks old. And with the news cycle being like, I don't know, what is it, about 20 minutes? But some highlights of some things I wanted to talk about. And then my topic that I'm going to talk about, finish off the night with was about quantum mechanics. I went to college back in the day when it was called quantum mechanics rather than quantum physics. And then the idea of the double slit experiments where they shot photons through a slit and recorded it on film. When they recorded it, when they just let the film do the recording, so to speak, you had one result, and when you had a camera counting the photons, which is kind of funny to even do that, but then the results were different, and the only difference was something was observing it, and thus the idea being that the observer does affect the result. And I'm going to get into that when we get going, but I think it's important because of what's going on in the social media and the news today is that they are trying to get your thoughts. If you can't join the team, the creative team, try and get their way, then they're trying to divert you into a harmless, obtuse situation. But let me get to the videos now. Of course, the government being shut down is the thing going on. I remember it happening several years ago, and I think it was reversed. It was the Republicans not going along with the program. But the funny part about it is it doesn't really affect a lot of things, but it does affect several people. So there's going to be several groups that are affected, and a lot of stuff's not affected. So like the military still runs, but they just don't pay the soldiers, and so on. So the thing here, of course, this is old news by now, that the Democrats want to have some type of amnesty for the DACA and perhaps chain migration people. And they want to force that by shutting down the budget to force it to be dealt with. And the Republicans are saying, no, we're going to deal with the budget, and then we'll talk about that later. And so there is in a nutshell, what the problem is. And so it's shut down. But at least from, I know the mainstream media is playing it one way, trying to make it be the conservative side's fault. I mean, I'm just to throw this out there for the millionth time, I'm not a Republican. I'm kind of whatever I am. I mean, I have certain ideas that would be considered completely radically left. and I have ideas that would be considered radically right, and other ideas which are, I don't know, whatever, middle or. So no party serves me well. In this case, Donald Trump not being a Republican per se, classical anyway, or maybe he is more classical, is doing I'm supporting him, and there's things I don't like. I wish he would different on the war aspects of it. Very important, but anyway, I don't get bogged down. So I wanted to bring out some things that I would like to see up on YouTube, and if somebody would like to clip this section out and post it, have at it. There's nice ways you can do it. We're saving it, and then you hit the share at the time. You can get it to this time or what have you. But these things need to be put concisely together and shown, because it is amazing. You got people showing up in the chat room. Robbie, Elephant Shoes, Omar. Oh, we got a new person. Ramble. Can't read. Unidis Ramble. Welcome into the room. So let me get a couple things. First thing I want to get out of the way. No, I shouldn't say out of the way. I mean, it's not as important, but this way I can do this. And now, there was a group, Night for Freedom, was a thing put on by, I think it was Mike Cernovich. Stefan Malyu was there. Jack Prosobic. I believe they used that as kind of a party for his book that came out. Anyway, it turns out Chelsea Manning shows up at the event. And to take her words, crash the fascist white supremacist hate brigade party, which, of course, it isn't. But this is the left narrative. And you can see her putting a selfie up there with the thumbs down with the sign in the background. As the reports came from it, they said that she did show up, and they no problems. She was not hassled. She was just not engaged. She wanted selfies with people, and they refused. But so she was kind of isolated, meaning like no one wanted to talk with her, because obviously she came in there under false pretense. I mean, look at her video. Fascist white supremacist, ridiculous. So nothing happened to her, and she left and was able to post this thing. But he didn't get beat up. He didn't get accosted, which is what I guess some of the hope was, that they would be able to say, see, look how these white supremacists work. But what did happen is there was Antifa protesting at this place, and they were arrested. And this particular tweet by Jack Prosobiec is that, and this is a New York Post article, somebody put a headlock on a cop and got arrested. But there was another individual, and I was trying to thumb through to get pictures. I found a video, and I just thought I could just talk about it, is that there was an individual inside that followed that person outside, a person outside, and started choking him, sending him to the hospital, severely injuring him. And that person was arrested, of course. So you have these so-called white supremacist fascists inside of all colors and flavors. You have the Chelsea Manning going in, and she was not accosted, wasn't yelled at, did anything. In fact, in her post, she didn't mention anything, didn't even say anything, didn't even lie. There wasn't there to, she'd have to lie because it didn't happen. And yet on the outside, you had people had police out there who were trying to protect them from the problem. This, in a nutshell, is the problem. I mean, and of course, it's very frustrating because you have the mainstream liberal press aren't going to say what I just said, even though what I said is absolutely true. And you may have Fox say it, but Fox is now, because they have moved into a more, a more open, less political, because in the beginning they were also anti-Trump for most part. But some of the people over there stepped up, and because of that, a lot of stuff that's been out on the alternative media sites, the citizen journalist stuff, is showing up there, which is good. But now the left-wing guys have to demonize Fox, because here you'll have Fox right on the cable, right next, there's CNN and MSNBC, and there's Fox. So people can actually click on it. So they got to make it look, they got to take their people who were on the edges. The diehards are going to be doing what they're told, you know. But they'll be like the Jim Jones. They'd be drinking the Kool-Aid, no problem. But the ones, you know, toward the outside edges might peel off. And, for example, the best news station there is, I think, is One American News Network, isn't even on Xfinity or Comcast. It is on AT&T. So if you have AT&T cable, please check it out. You also can buy a subscription. I think it's $4 or $5 a month to get it streamed. Streamed. I always messed up with that. Feels like it'd be strum. Past tense of stream. Anyway, so but I wanted to mention that there's clearly, and I'll put all these links as usual in the bottom when I'm done. There is this idea of you know, these are right-wing fascists and this and that, which is a complete lie. And I really urge people, I guess I'll put the links up too. You should read Dinesh D'Souza's books, a couple of them, or I believe there's a video out in Hillary's America, which is really history of the Democratic Party through slavery and who actually voted to maintain slavery, who owned slaves versus who didn't, and so on. And then his latest book is The Big Lie, which shows the fascist ideology, both literally and in spirit, has been transferred to the Democratic Party. So it's very, very interesting stuff. Okay, you got that. Now let me go to my feed here. Oh, yeah, here we go. There's another very important thing. You know, it's a big deal about Planned Parenthood. You know, they're not going to have women aren't going to get proper health care and all this, when it's been shown in undercover investigations over and over again that Planned Parenthood's job is abortion. Many of their clinics don't have anything at all about women's health other than dealing with abortion, or secondarily would be in stopping pregnancies. But it's very important. See, like they talk about Trump being a racist and all this stuff, and it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous because you have Trump, all these awards. I did a whole video. You can look at it on my channel of why I voted for Trump, and I put all the videos in there where he's getting awards from Jesse Jackson multiple times saying how great he's helping the black community, both in his money and in jobs and work and all this stuff. You have the descendants of Martin Luther King saying he's not a racist and praising him, and they're just ignored, of course, because they don't fit the narrative. If you have a black person of some color, who supports Trump, he's, to quote one news guy, a mediocre Negro. Mediocre Negro? Mediocre Negro. So, you know, they're going to marginalize them, right? They don't count. They've sold out their race, you know, and all this nonsense. So here you got Margaret Sanger. She founded Planned Parenthood, 1916, in order to eliminate what she thought were, quote, inferior races like Orientals, Jews, and blacks. She referred to them as human weeds. These are all quotes from her. They're kind of famous quotes. I mean, this is nothing new, but perhaps maybe a listener, a watcher hasn't actually seen this. I mean, this is blatant. So just think if, you know, like Trump's father said something like this, what they'd be saying about him. It's amazing when you go look into the extreme left's background. They have the racism. They have the fascism. They have the slavery, the downplaying, using the races to keep them down. It's all there. Look at the Democratic cities, Chicago, LA, and all that. It's all Democrats, and it's all. So it's so obvious to me, and it aggravates me because I don't care, Democrat, Republican. I don't care about that stuff. There's plenty of Republicans that I'm not thrilled with. You know, so I mean. But this is reality, and this is what I want to. When I try to do in a show, I don't really get into politics, but I get into actual reality. I get facts, the history. This really happened. Now you can say, well, okay, maybe she did that, but Planned Parenthood has morphed into something more different. Well, when you look at the statistics of who goes to Planned Parenthood and how in the abortion statistics, and you look in the races, they're still working on those human weeds, to quote her. So that's, I think, very important. Let me scan down my list here. Let me go to the right setting here. Here we go. So I can scan that. I want to make sure I cover before I get into. All right. Well, the big thing going out now is the release the document, release the report, you know, and so forth. I'll get to these other things later. They want to release the memo. So it apparently looks like it's on its way to being released. But here's the problem. Now, I'm talking, meaning that you guys understand what this memo is about. Maybe I should just say this. Somebody didn't see it or whatever. The memo has been, they have investigated what is going on in the FBI, CIA, and Obama administration, and they found grave abuses of power in the FISA system and so on. And there's a 4-page memo outlining this. And everyone who's read it, it's classified, so Congress have read it. And, of course, Republicans are outraged. Most of the Democrats won't even look at it, and a few have had, won't say nothing. So and they want to have it released to the public. And I just saw a quote earlier that the shift is against it because the people wouldn't understand it. So, yeah, it was prompting me to put down, are you going to believe what your eyes say or what I tell you? But, so this is the thing, and this memo has all these damning, it's a summary, 4-page summary. It has all this damning evidence. It could go up to, no one can say because it's classified. But the people have talked about the highest levels being involved, and people will be fired for prison. And, this is what people who've read it are saying, granted, they're Republican. But I'm looking at this. They're going to start the process of releasing the memo. And since it's classified, it has to be declassified. And there's several ways to go about it. They're going to declassify it where the committee has to vote. And if the vote doesn't go all the way, then he can go to the House and they can vote. They could send it to the Speaker to declassify. He can reject it and send it to the House. And some say politically he would do that because it would make the Democrats vote against it. So when it does come out, it would show they're trying to hide things. And it can go to Trump. Trump can come out tomorrow and declassify it, being the president of the United States, being the highest position in the police enforcement branch. He can declassify things at will. He doesn't need the deep state to agree, doesn't need the CIA, FBI. The president can declassify anything he wants at will. And so the thought is that he may kick it back to them so he doesn't want to be involved in it. There's all this stuff. And it's like, meanwhile, it could take up to 19 plus days to happen, which is plenty of time, as I put it on my little post here, for the poop of distraction to hit the fan. So me personally, and one might say, you might think my mother's training at always looking at the dark side is that this is a time ripe for catastrophe to take the attraction away from it. So I'm concerned. This could be good if it comes out. And also we're being built up, we being those who are looking to get this illegal stuff done, are being built up, and then the memo may come out and it might not be a big deal. I would be very disappointed, which this is one of the things I'm concerned about, because of how it's being played up. All these people would then look like complete idiots if it is nothing. So I'm assuming it's something, but I do have a number of posts. I'll keep it at the bottom. I'll get to that. At the bottom, the links, so you can go through these things. I got a couple things I do want to play. And it's amazing to me, CNN won't be reporting on the record market rally. Well, I could talk about that too, but they could say the word S-hole 200 times. So if I recall the stats, this is by me hearing this is by memory. CNN said it like 230 times, 280 times. They said the word completely, while MSNBC did it like 12 or 13 times. And the other news networks used euphemisms or, S-hole or stuff like that. But CNN wanted to do this. And I don't know. It's amazing to me how ridiculous that whole thing is over there. It is so much programming or deprogramming, however you want to call it. It's so ridiculous. Here is something that's concerning. This year released, Wall Street Journal, 6 Chinese ships covertly aided North Korea, and the U.S. has watching from their satellite. So China is saying yes, they should sanction for Korea. Meanwhile, they're helping them behind the scenes. Now, the one problem with the sanctions I have, who gets hurt? Do you think the higher-ups in there are going to miss some meals because of the sanctions? No, it's going to hurt the people. So I'm not thrilled about it, but this is, this is really spinning up into something. I don't know. I just have to pray and hope. Things seem to be turning around. This memo does give me, as you heard before, I'm not a fan of QAnon and all this, and I'll get into some of this in a little bit because there's nothing there. They're talking in riddles, and people are filling in the blanks for them, and this is how con artists talk. And people are getting all the helps up. But then this memo pops up. It's like, no, there's something that has some meat and potatoes on it. And even that still could fail, depending upon if it's been overblown. Here's an example here. The question that CNN did poll was most responsible for government shutdown. Trump, 21%. GOP, 26%. Democrats, 31%. All of them, 10%. And if you combine the Trump and GOP in one, which is, I didn't hear it in a news report on CNN, but this is probably how they'll frame it, that 47% of people said it was either the GOP or Trump, while 31%, said it was them. And if you wanted to, you can add all of them. You can add 10 on to all of these and combine them. Oh, it'd be even higher. But this is how the game of propaganda goes. And again, I didn't see him say that, but this has been my guess based on other things. I have links that people have put together. Here's a Gateway Pundit put together like a chart and a story connecting all the dots of all the people involved in this. They're calling it Obamagate because it goes beyond simply the uranium deal. I'll put links on it. And there's a lot of people talking about this, so I don't want to just throw on my, comments on it. Obviously, I think there's something to all of this, and I want it to be all ripped out and thrown into the open. I want to drain the swamp. It's one of the reasons why I voted for Trump from his, claims. So here's this memo. I'll put all these links up. If you haven't seen these links, Hannity actually did a pretty good job. Years ago, I'd listen to Hannity when I'd be driving. He was right after Limbaugh. I was not a big fan of Hannity. He was a go-get-em Republican, conservative guy, hatchet guy. Limbaugh had more class than him, but he's come around in recent times, so I'm kind of glad about that. Let's see if I could say this here. I posted a response to somebody, and I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to post this as my own post. While I'm open to all possibilities, I guess I attempt to apply known, understand possibilities before simply making stuff up. While it's not a good trait for a talk show host, I admit. It would be better to take an event, come up with a salacious, wild theory that touches on various topics that a number of people are interested in, to draw them in, and then add a secret high-level informer, which I could just make up, as my quote proof, and spin the yarn around and around, adding and subtracting as new information comes up. And then when it's been talked out and beaten to death, or another event comes around, you just segue on to the next event. Be it politics, science, spirituality, etc., this is the sad state of alternative talk these days. I guess it always was, going back to Art Bell. I guess it has just become so obvious and dysfunctional and detrimental to the finding of truth that these days the stakes are so high it's no longer fun. I remember listening to Art Bell when they had a time travel on, and there were so many holes in it, but he wasn't poking it, but people were calling in and doing it, so Art Bell was just kind of stoking it up, and it was fun for people to come in here, but now the stakes are a little too high for that. The funny thing is some people will be offended by my comments and call me a troll and ban me from the threads. This has happened several times. While in general, conventional in the general conventional world, some people will call me a conspiracy theorist because I will look into and point out merits in various alternative theories. And if you want to hear this, I can't play it now, but I attached the song "State of Play" by Yes. And actually, that's going to be a good segue into my last segment. But let me get this other stuff out of the way first. Now, I'm going to play these, and maybe somebody can isolate this. Let me go to the full window here. It's because people are talking about Trump supporting immigration, keeping illegal immigrants out, and all this stuff. So Trump is a racist because he's doing this. He has no heart or soul. Here are the main objectors currently to the wall immigration policies. And listen to what these guys said back then. I love this. I call it the YouTube time machine.
Would be subject to tough criminal penalties for fraud. The DREAM Act would not allow what is known as chain migration. In fact, DREAM Act students would have very limited ability to sponsor their family members for legal status.
See, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? But of course, now he's talking about the chain migration is racist. This is great. Good job on the guy who did this.
People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally.
The president's decision to end DACA was heartless and it was brainless.
When we use phrases like undocumented workers, we convey a message to the American people that their government is not serious about combating illegal immigration.
Hundreds of thousands of families will be ripped apart.
If you don't think it's illegal, you're not going to say it. I think it is illegal and wrong.
Tens of thousands of American businesses will lose hardworking employees.
A biometric-based employer verification system with tough enforcement and auditing is necessary to significantly diminish the job magnet that attracts illegal aliens to the United States.
They may have known no other country but ours and have voluntarily registered themselves.
All illegal aliens present in the United States on the date of enactment of our bill must quickly register their presence with the United States government or face imminent deportation.
But we have to send a clear message. Just because your child gets across the border, that doesn't mean the child gets to stay. So we don't want to send a message that is contrary to our laws or will encourage more children to make that dangerous journey.
With respect to the notion that I can just suspend deportations through executive order, that's just not the case because there are laws on the books that Congress has passed. And I know that everybody here at Bell is studying hard, so you know that we've got 3 branches of government. Congress passes the law. The executive branch's job is to enforce and implement those laws. And then the judiciary has to interpret the laws. There are enough laws on the books by Congress that are very clear in terms of how we have to enforce our immigration system, that for me to simply, through executive order, ignore those congressional mandates would not conform with my appropriate role as president.
How about that, huh? Some more.
Agree on the need to better secure the border and to punish employers who choose to hire illegal immigrants. We are a generous and welcoming people here in the United States, but those who enter the country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law, and they are showing disregard for those who are following the law. We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully to become immigrants.
Pretty reasonable, huh? Pretty Trumpian, huh? Here's the last one.
I think we can enforce our borders. I think we should enforce our borders. To have a situation where 40% of the babies born on Medicaid in California today are born of illegal immigrants creates a very real problem for the state, which is in deficit.
Look, of course you can enforce the borders.
Let me finish.
I agree.
To have 17% of our prison population at a cost of $300 million a year be illegal immigrants who come here and commit felonies. That's not what this nation is all about.
Of course.
How about that? How about that? Well, this is something that this stuff should be on the news media, and they should go, Dianne Feinstein, 1994, you said this. Now you're saying that, playing clip. What's the difference? They should be holding their feet to the fire, but of course it's partisan. The propaganda machines have to play their roles. Anyway, if you would like to, I'll give those links. This is a Facebook post, so I could put the links up, and it'll go to a Facebook post. And I don't know if anybody could just see it, but I'm sure it's not the only place available. If people could find it or whatever, or again, I put them all together. If you want to cut this little section out and put it, you can do that by even using when I post it on YouTube. You can start it at a certain area, and you can do it. So this to me would be liar, liar, pants are on fire, or more accurately, it served their purpose then, but now they're looking to, having lost this election, they're looking to bring in, since the, quote, Republicans are against illegal alien immigration, and if the Democrats get them in, the reward will be, we got you in, now you vote for us. It's just like in the inner cities. For some reason, you would think the inner cities would be voting against the people who are holding them in there. I would blame the local mayors and whatnot, but for some reason, they've got them believe that, if you think it's bad now, wait till those guys get in power. Well, now those guys, quote, are in power. There's another video floating around with Nancy Pelosi talking about 4 white guys sitting around trying to make these decisions. And, now the numbers are coming up. Now, I want to say that unless the numbers stay high and continue to grow and go on for years, there is a possibility of paying back the debt that's $20 trillion. It can actually disappear, but there's got to be cuts in spending, and there has to be, cutting in taxes and raising income, which will raise the tax and all that. It's mathematically possible to work this out. However, if Trump does get tossed out, or if he loses the next election, the market will crash like a stone in air, not even water, and it will plunge the world into an utter collapse. So, this is the problem with the current market going up, is because it's going up on the faith of Trump's vision for the world. And so they're trading on future action. The stocks have used to be tied to performance, and now they've become an investment in the future. It's like futures market is to all of the stocks. And so people are investing and now going, hey, it's going to go up higher and higher and higher. And when these principles and programs that Trump is implementing, when it all gets through, it'll be even higher and it'll be good and all this. So there's kind of a blind euphoria going forward. And if that does fail, which is they're trying their hardest, the most possible hardest to fail, to bring this down, it will collapse like a stone. The market is so high on expectations. Let me see if I got this here. All right. So this is the problem with the markets, and this is why I still maintain, if you look back on Lionel Parkinson, go on my YouTube channel, look up Lionel Parkinson. He has a way to buy into ETF funds for selling the market short, and they're only like $10, $15, $20 a share. And these shares can go from $13 to $100,000, and they were back in 2008 when that other mini crash came. So I highly recommend people who, don't have the money to, put stocked away or what have you. You can buy these funds very cheap, free to get it. You go on Ameritrade or whatever. You can open an account free. You have to pay for the shares, of course, but you can literally put in $13, $14 on one share on one of the 4, and it could save your life in a crash. So I want to keep doing it, because even though we're doing all this wonderful stuff here, and there's this big euphoria, and I would like it to go. I'd be happy. The money I put on these ETF funds, I'd gladly let it go. I'd gladly lose it in a robust, growing, paying back the debt community. I just don't. I'm hoping. Okay, I'm hoping that's the case. I'm looking at the videos here. All right. I think I can go to the other topic. Oh, there's one more about the heart. One more thing about Trump's health thing. Again, where's the button? Let me go back to the other one. Again, I'm not speaking this in partisanship. I'm not a Republican. I'm not registered Republican. If they wanted me to join, and I said, no, the way you guys treated Trump, you guys are going to have to earn me by backing him and so on, if you wanted me to. But Trump has they're trying to find some reason to get rid of him in the 15th Amendment to have him be taken out, or the 25th Amendment, to be taken out for not being fit. And they don't have a reason. But they try to come up with all this stuff going on, that he's unfit and all that. So what does Trump do? He airs a live meeting between all of them, and he's acting fine. They're acting fine. He could see that it's all partisan baloney. So now he has his health, his yearly health check, and the doctor says he's in good health, great health, especially for his age, great health. They were going through his numbers with a fine-tooth comb. They're asking for platelet counts and all this stuff, and he's 0.5% under obese, and they're saying, they're focusing in on that, and they're going all this stuff. Meanwhile, back in the last election cycle, when you have Hillary falling over, 70-degree days, saying it's too hot, passing out, actually having him video her falling into her car, leaving her shoe behind, having her stuttering and stuff, and having a guy come up whispering in her ear with a shot ready, saying it's going to be okay, and all this stuff. And it's a conspiracy theory to talk about her health, right? Okay? So they're going in, Trump is getting a good clip of health, and they're going in there digging in this thing. Well, what about this? What about that? Trying to find something, right? Meanwhile, the former president, Barack Obama, smoked. Now, I didn't even know that. It took me years before I realized he did, because they never show him smoking. Now, if Trump were a smoke, you'd have people, every picture of him would be him smoking or whatever. They have the worst possible picture they can use. But if Barack Obama, no one films him smoking. No one barely says anything about it. Once in a while, I actually saw a picture that had him with a cigarette. And then there was even a theory that was floating around that there was actually two of them. One smoked and one didn't. Anyway, that right there I don't understand how people, but yeah, I have some friends who are on the far left side of the aisle, as they say, and they don't care about that. They don't, whether they're fair or not, it's irrelevant. It's, I want my side and my things to win. I don't care if they're lying, cheating, stealing. I don't care if they throw him out of office illegally. I don't care. He's a jerk. He shouldn't be in there. I want my people in there, and that's all that matters. And I'm like, my breath is like taken back when I think of it. It's like you don't care. All I care about is what benefits me. And he was saying stuff, and I'm like, because the guy's a nice guy. He's helped me out. He's helped friends out. He's helping neighbors out. He's a nice guy. So it was like, So anyway, I wanted to mention about that whole thing, what a big hypocrisy it is. But I stopped talking to some people about this. I just ended up silencing their feeds or outright unfriending them because I don't want to keep seeing the propaganda and their snide comments. I go, why? If they want to have a discussion on it, fine, but they're not. It's not about, let's find out truth. Let's find out what's the best way to do things. It's like, I want our way, and how can we get our way? And that our way is being hijacked by a neo-Bolshevik, a neo-communism type of a thing that will come in and become an extreme. Now, again, people say, yeah, well, Trump raised the military. Look, I'm not 100% happy here. And if you think you're going to find somebody, you're going to find a mate, you're going to find your kids, your job, or you're like 100% happy, good luck with that. Because outside chance, you might get one of those if you're lucky. But the rest of us have to constantly deal with compromise, the best that we can do with it, given what we have at this time and where you're at this time, etc. And that's what like the rest of the world has to deal with. I'm trying to see what this. Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw another thing was posted here. All right, let me show this. This wasn't playing, so I don't have the. It's not going to fit right. Well, there's nothing on the page that's. Now North and South Korea are going to be together in the Olympic Games, and there's a move toward peace while the U.S. beats the drums. And my comment at the bottom was, hey, those drums may have helped the peace project to happen. You know, I'm not going to sit down and judge, because in order to judge, you have to have enough of the facts. And that's one of the things that people don't have, is they don't have enough information to judge, and they judge anyway. And that's why when you look at my webpage, two of the quotes from Socrates and from Jesus, this is without a doubt the most reprehensible folly, the folly of thinking we know what we do not know. The unexamined life is not worth living. And Jesus to the self-appointed experts, they're blind guides leading the blind. If a blind man guides a blind man, both will fall into the pit. And that's what we're having here. And maybe this is a good segue for me to go into. This is what we're having here. I've been following this stuff from QAnon to the New Age stuff, all these things, the secret, the whole 9 yards. And the problem is that in quantum mechanics, and I started out talking a little bit about this, so let me, quantum mechanics in the theory is that the observer of the process of a infinite amount of information that comes in a light wave, comes in, hits the slit, right? You have an infinity, a wave is infinite, right? When it goes through the slit, it narrows down and only so many photons can go through, right? And so when you have it done without somebody counting or watching it, let's say with a camera, your ending film plate is going to have a haze across it. If I'm remembering this right, well, I hope I am, because it'd be, yeah, you can't even remember things, I'm going to listen to you. But when there was somebody there at a camera there counting the photons and watching them, then it would actually go into a double bar lines and stuff like this. And the only difference in the experiment is that it was being watched. And so the theory as it applies to the quantum world, quantum reality, is that if an observer without any input, just watching, can cause an effect, imagine what someone with input can do. You know, the people against that say, no, the observer's there, it's not putting any input, but it is. By fact of being an observer standing there in and of itself, it does cause something to happen. This is what the people saying against it. And the example would be if you were to have two people talking without anybody present, and they would talk in a certain way, and then you put in a camera and record it. The knowledge of that camera will change how those people will act. So this is the concept only at a quantum level. But if you do give credence to that quantum, in the quantum world, that an observer just observing will cause an infinite amount of waveform of possibilities to condense into a finite amount of possibilities, or one. If that's an accepted fact, then if the observer actually has intention, wishes the certain data, energizes that data or whatever, then it would. Now that, I haven't seen a test doing that. No, I mean, I have seen tests doing it where they have these, Art Bell did these things back in the 90s, where you'd have these automatic random number generators, and then they would all have, Art Bell and his million some listeners would concentrate on it, and then it would be an anomaly. So they've already have, that's not clinical testing, but, it is something. So you have these things happening. So the idea is, now if you want to accept that premise, just for the sake of argument here, where if you participate in reality, you are actually can affect what actually happens in reality from the infinite possibilities. Like, for example, you can say, what could happen tomorrow? Well, the sun can blow up. We get hit by a meteor. Nothing. It could rain. It could snow. I could win the lotto. I could fall down and break my leg. I could die. I mean, there's all those possibilities are all real because the situation that you're in at this moment in time is set up for that possibility. Now, of course, you don't have a lottery ticket, you won't, but maybe you'll find one on the ground as you're walking or something. It's a winner. And all those are possible. But your actions throughout the day will start to narrow down your input in that. You will narrow down the possibilities of what will happen in your life. Now, you add in someone else. So if you're driving a car, there's other people on the road. So their actions are going to affect your actions if you're in the vicinity to affect you. And so if you look at the concept of putting out, like people right now, they're all trying to, prayer has been shown by praying on a person even unknown to them. Those people did a better job recovering. So the theory is that you're sending a desired outcome through some type of energetic conversation on a quantum level that you are helping to bring about this. And of course, you're fighting against the natural objects. Like if they're sick, right, the natural flow of the illness may be downhill, so now you're fighting uphill. And this is where this conflict comes, that you can't be sure. And I hope I didn't lose everybody here, boring them to death, but I'm setting this up here because what we're doing now is you see out on the social media, you have the QAnon and all this stuff. You have the, what's it called, Narina. You have the Gaia. You have the Galactic Federations. You have all these things stating a reality that they say is real. And the goal is to have you believe them, and then now you are putting out that information. Now, the person may be believing it, or they could be a scam or whatever. Okay, so I'm not even going to get into that part. So you believe that, and a group of people put this out there, you have this force of creative / observing quantum universe and bringing it into reality. And this is where the secret comes in and all this. But let's just assume that's even true, that it can happen to that degree. Okay? The problem is there's other people wanting something else, and they have their people doing it. So you have this conflict. And right now, the way I would say, using that model, just for the sake of talking here, using that model, every day you get up and read the news, it's like here to there, and this happens and that happens, and whoa, and Trump's going to go, and then Trump fights back, and then this and that. It's like, what's going to happen? Korea's going to have a nuclear launch, and so you have all these things flying around. And so it is my assertion that, I can't prove this. I'm just sharing this for thought, is that what is coming in reality, literally no one knows. Whether it be angels, whether it be psychics, they don't know, because it is so fluid on the creative side with the forces, quantum fighting, I'll call it, that it could be anything. And the attempts to get people enough people to follow, and assuming anyway that there is a muscle, if you have 10 people versus 1, that 10 is going to be stronger in quantum influence than 1, but it might not be the case, because that 1 may have other things around the universe happening that is actually having a momentum for that person's case. So I'm kind of throwing all that stuff out just for the sake of ease of discussion. That what I think the goal here is, rather than to get you to agree with them and put that creative force in the universe, this is what I think is happening. And I'd like you to think about this, is that another way to get your way is you have your group of people, perhaps highly trained in Kabbalistic magic and all that, which is a way of moving quanta, okay? Or if they're in masonry or whatever, all those kind of occult type things may have ways of moving quanta, and of course regular prayer groups who do the same. if you invoke God and God gets involved, and that's a big if, because, and I could go into a whole theology on that at another time. That's a different story. So the idea here would be that rather than fight all you, what the goal is that a group of these people who are really into this, they know this, they're professionals in it, it's been taught for generations, they got this together, whether it be like, and it could be groups of people in their own methods, like I said, Kabbalists or witches or whoever, using their own occultic way of doing the same thing on a similar page, okay, that pressure. What they can do to make it easier on them to get what they want is to get other people to get on a tangent that's not relevant. They won't fight against what they're doing. Like there's people, like I'm aware of Zeph Daniels, who's got a thing going on for years where they're 20 on 20. Every 20th of the week, of the month, they pray for 20 minutes to stop human trafficking. They're focused on that, right? So that's going to be a good focus on an event, and they can put that quanta, what was the word I said earlier? I liked it. Quantum manipulation, but influence. That influence on the quanta as they're forming reality, let's say. And you have that corresponding with the divine reality of the earth was created by God. Again, I'm making these statements that you might not agree, that has a particular formula for how it should work, and it's being perverted, okay? So you have the flow against you of the perversion, but you also have the flow of the way the universe is meant to work. So you can have these kind of aspects. So the idea, though, is to get people to either be acquiescent or to be on an obtuse tangent to the flow of the energy. So if you don't go head to head, or if you don't actually, if you're hitting, here's somebody going, I'm going to try to do this. I got to figure, okay, the weird camera's kind of weird here. So this is going this way, and you hit them this way, so you're going to influence. But if they can get you to go this way, off on a tangent, no influence, or around or under. So what I think is happening is you have all these things. And I have experience in this. I've been doing this 15 years, right? And I've been listening to Art Bell another 10 and whatever prior, since the early 90s. And so I've been hearing people talk. I remember it talking about, of course, the obviously Planet X with Nancy Leader and others. And here it's not here. Where is it? It's there. It's here, there, and there, whatever. You have Richard Hoagland, who, could be one of these people who are trying and using it for his profit. He'll come up with these particular theories or what have you, like face on Mars, which, I see where it did look like a face, but when they actually took the picture of the angle he wanted at the time he wanted, from the angle he wanted, when they took that picture, it looked like a mountain. So it was just a coincidence, like seeing a face in the clouds. When you look at the face on Mars, it's like seeing a face in the clouds. It's just your body, your mind, has the desire to create order, to create a recognizable pattern, to put patterns into chaos. And this is great because we can read and write, and we can recognize people, we can see things and do things. If we couldn't do that, we'd be completely like, you look at this pen, there's a pen, and then you pick it up again and go, I don't know, what is it? Because you can't recognize it. And unfortunately, there are people who have various levels of that where they can't recognize their wife or husband or whatever. So the point I'm getting at is when I see these videos, and it's another thing, it's all YouTube videos that I go to watch them, and they're 50 minutes long now. Of course, right now I'm at, where am I at? 54 minutes. So during calling the pot kettle black or whatever. But this is a general topic. We call it a radio show that's on for a time, as opposed to doing a targeted video. But they go on and ramble on and on these things. And most of them are citing data someone else has cited and someone else cited, and it all goes back to the same source. And the source is ambiguous. The source is made so you can fill in the blanks. It's like when you talk to a psychic and go like, yeah, I'm getting like an M. Like an M. And they go, oh, yeah, my mother was Madeline. Yeah, oh, yeah, okay. See, they're just when they come up with a common letter, most people know somebody and went to college somewhere that had the letter, and how you work with it. And so consciously or unconsciously, that's what they're doing. So when you have people who come up with stuff and say, like, well, you know, do you ever try like the QAnon is a great example of this, asking all these questions. And for me, someone who is critically thinking, wanting to know the answers and listen to it, it's very frustrating. It's like, this guy's not saying anything. And then I hear about how right he is. And you name the person who has been, whether it's, the bot project and all that, the concept of that is very good. Again, he's collecting, let's call it influential quanta, but the interpretation is the thing. When you interpret, I mean, I've done some readings myself for people where I got visions and praying to God for the person who was there to help them. I got the vision. I just described it. I didn't know what it meant. They did. And that to me was like, okay, God's given me this puzzle so that I stay out of the way, and then they're getting influence from their side to understand it or whatever. So that's why I did that for a while. I thought it was cool because I wasn't actually involved in the process. And I was giving very specific, very odd visions. You know, like a car, I had one car where all the different quarter panels were all from a different car. The hood was different, the car was different, and the guy who I was reading for was sitting in it, and I'm like, I don't know what this means. I'm sorry. He goes, yeah, I know what it means. I'm a used car salesman. So I didn't know that, you know. And so anyway, the point, the point I'm getting at is that when you look at the media, CNN is over, above, obviously, propagandally whipping their people into such a disconnect with reality as to not have them affected. Like if all of a sudden all the people watch CNN all of a sudden wanted to see what's inside this a memo and all this stuff and got involved in it, that would be very detrimental to the process because now you have all these people aligned on the same thing. And that's why when you have spiritual harassment, for those who have had it, is that when you're focused on it and you have, you know, an audience or you're resonating with a bunch of other people or whatever, you got to start peeling those people off and so on. That's why you have a lot of the leaders get sidetracked. They use whatever they may be vulnerable to. Ego is usually number one. When you get into radio and TV, ego is a great way to do it. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this, that I am very despondent on this whole QAnon and other things, which are catching so many people because they want this so bad, and I want it so bad. I want justice. I want to stop the trafficking, especially the abuse, satanic ritual, eating, beating, whatever, of children. I mean, for God, that's the worst thing that, and the elderly. I want to see that very bad. And when some secret guy comes up with secret questions that you have to fill in the blanks, I get very irate with it because the guy is screwing with us. And just say it. And they come up with an excuse, well, if he doesn't say it the way it is, then he would get stopped, and they would come get him. And they would come get him now anyway. But they're not, because he's doing what he's supposed to do, either for himself, which is getting his 20 minutes of fame, or whatever you want to call it. And let me go back through timing. I started out with Hoagland, and then there was David Booth and Saoirse Fall, and I actually liked David Booth. I went along with him, but I saw things that happened, and I had to say no. Saoirse Fall is really, I think Debbie and Rachel Booth is on whatisitmean.com, and what they're doing, all these guys are doing is, in fact, I was going to take this, that's it, I forgot. I had a email that someone sent me saying that there wasn't an actual mistake with the missile warning, that there was incoming missiles, and the missiles were taken out. And then since there was no big witnesses of this, they just, it was just a mistake, to try and calm everything down. Now that's just somebody saying that. They had no evidence at all whatsoever to say that. Nothing. no evidence whatsoever other than that statement, and somehow that carries weight. So the point is people are, and this goes back, whatdoesitmean.com, David Booth, these guys, these were the guys that I first started to notice this, where they'll take a real story. David Booth brought up his story about there was in the news, a Coptic nun was attacked in Egypt. And this is my eyes, real time, seeing this stuff and interacting with it, okay? And he came out and said that was his sister, was a Coptic nun in Egypt, and she was killed. Now, there's no news story saying that she died. I researched this. I found these stories, various stories pointing to it, but saying who the person was, none of them said it. Didn't say they died. He said that they died, and he put out a video where he was yelling at them, "You killed my sister, you know, and I'm coming for you," and all this stuff. And it was put out on a secret URL, but somebody flipped it to me who was in their group. And it's obvious that, you know, Surfing the Apocalypse, going back in the day, it's another one. Rumor Mill News, Godlike Productions, all these places. In fact, Rumor Mill News is even more blatant about it. They had factions that would come up with these stories, and they would fight one another and see who would win by how many people would follow them. And this is what's being done. It's like, I come up with this. Here's a news story. I come up with the behind the news with no proof whatsoever, but it touches a nerve on groups of people who then go, "Oh, yeah. I either want that to be true, or you're looking at it in terms of negative, like it's bad, but I knew it was going to be that way, you know, whatever." And you attach to it. And what this does, it doesn't really change. It doesn't really change the outcome of reality, because you're dealing in unreality. You're dealing in you're taking your creative energy and it's being put into nothing. It's just being detracted and put over there. And that's what these things, and I've been watching this stuff for years. I'm actually getting to the point where I'm just so tired of the baloney that's coming out. And it's coming out in, you know, way big time. Because back in that day, there wasn't an internet. You had like Art Bell was the only source. Before Art Bell, there was none, though there were some individual radio shows. And you did have bulletin boards back in the day where you call on a phone. You know, so you had FidoNet and other things. So there were stuff going on. It wasn't as universal. Now it's like, what is it? I forgot. You know, at any given day, there's 2 billion people online, and automatic translation in all those languages and all these things happening. It's just like easy now. You come out with a news story, you come out with your backside to it, your backstory to it, you work with it, you keep it going, and then it starts to fall apart. Meanwhile, oh, look at this other one. Boom. So when Hoagland's face disappeared, he goes to the next one, which was there are cities under ice on Mars. And I'm driving the truck going, wow, this is cool. And Art Bell's going, yeah, you can actually see like the streets and you can see the buildings. And they showed I'm going, I want to go to get a website so I could see it, you know, because there was he had a streaming camera, but it was too many people, so then it ended up not working anymore. But so I run home from work, I get on there, I go in, and I see this picture, and I'm like, what? This is just, whenever you take a digitized picture and you raise it past its resolution, it has to make something up to fit, and you get blocks. And so you can take a picture that, let's say, would be like sandy, like a sand. As you bring it in, you'll end up getting, it's got to make a decision, and it'll draw lines and make these giant blocks. Pixelization of it. And I clearly saw that this was just overly pixelized, overly blown up version of this stuff to give the illusion of looking down like you look down on skyscrapers and see that. And I was very upset about it. But see, I'm looking for truth. It's like I don't want to believe and I don't want to not believe. I just want to know. I want to know. So, you know, after doing this stuff year after year after year, the whole Planet X thing, I had every Planet X person who would ever come on my show. Now they won't come on anymore because every single one I brought them to a point where I put a big gaping holes in their theories. And so now Planet X is, now we have the flat earth people coming around. And you can show all the ways you want. It doesn't matter because this is a belief system. Now, Planet X does have a benefit in that if people get ready for a Planet X, they're also getting ready for an EMP, nuclear attack, turning off all the electricity, government shutdown, meaning in the sense of everybody is martial law. So it does have a benefit in getting ready for a Planet X for some of the other more real possibilities. So there's a silver lining there. But the stuff that's going on, and I'm reading this stuff, I'm watching it, and I'm just going, I can't. I've stopped posting about QAnon because forgive the expression, I'm peeing into the wind. Because most of the people who are supporting this QAnon stuff don't want to hear what I got to say, whether it's reasonable or not. And that's what I said when I read that thing I wrote on Facebook, is that I don't care what the outcome is. I mean, obviously, I'd like it to be all nice and rosy. I mean, but I don't have an interest in steering the data to get the way I want it to. In fact, it took a while to do that because everyone does it. I do it. I'm sure I still do it, but I keep trying to self-examine myself and check it and listen to people who bring stuff up so that I know that's the tendency. Our minds have a tendency to try and bring a pattern to a set of information. It helps us, but it also hurts us. When we walk out there, we're walking out into, I want this to fit this model. And I went through and I started this when I was in a fundamental Baptist church teaching adult class, and I had events in my life, divorce and whatnot, which totally trashed that. And I actually got to a point where I had a question, because when I started studying there, I started using the Bible along with helps to understand the Greek and Hebrew words, not commentaries, but linguistic help. And I didn't agree with my own church's doctrine in some areas. And I was shocked. And I'm like, I can make the simple case for it here. And I would talk to the pastor, and he can't argue. And I'm like, wow. So that was going on at the same time as other things, so that I was forced to go back to zero. Is there a God? Does the Bible mean anything? And I got to my position today by using, lack of contradiction, critical thinking, and, once you make a decision, yes, God, no, God, then you move on. And and at one point, if you move on the wrong way, things start to contradict, and then you come back. So I could talk about the theology I have for hours. And it's been by using this lack of contradiction, go this way, there's contradictions, step back, and I could work my way through it. And I do have a theology that, of course, there is God, and I do think Jesus was sent by God, and God was through Jesus, and all this other stuff, and I could come up and explain why. I can't prove it. A lot of the things like God and spirituality, you can't prove to somebody. There could be some logical actions. You can see it by the person who is living it and see how it helps their lives and whatever and so on. So anyway, I don't want to get off of this, but this is why I'm I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say I'm upset. I'm affected negatively. I'm seeing this QAnon stuff, and I'm going like, it's the same thing with Anonymous. Anonymous, by definition, no one can know who they are. So it could be anybody, including disinfo people. It could be people having and that's another thing. A lot of people say that there's all these agents here doing it. There's people that I've known to simply pick a fight or make up stuff for fun. Well, I really duped him, and they would like that. They get off on that, and I'm like stunned by that. Like, what possible joy could you get out of lying so well that you fooled somebody? Of course, then that's where salesmen come in and lawyers, and I understand that, So this is where I'm thinking, and there's some, if I can leave you with this, there's some, let me see if I got anything from Less Visible before I actually turn off the switches. I got a little more to go yet, though. Don't run away. Where is it? Okay. Oh, all right. I think we all have, I call it a BS meter, but the positive thing, I guess, would be a truth meter. I think that your gut, and all cultures talk about that feeling in their gut. There is something there. Now, you have to differentiate between fear and want so that they don't color then coming in there. Because with the information that comes in is somewhat subtle. So you have to get your fears understood and isolated so you can filter out the fear. You can filter out your desire. Like, I want this so bad that I'm going to read everything that comes in toward that way, which is what people are doing with QAnon. So that you can use that as a kind of a starting point. I did this when I was Bible studying. I read a passage and I go, there's something here. Something here. And I'd look around and I'd start seeing, I go, let me check these words out here. And then I would find out that these words have a richer context and that if you could translate this in a different way, it's a wider way. It's like, oh, it could mean this too. Oh, interesting, you know. And as you use this kind of gut thing, you got to use critical thinking and non-contradiction and reality as your filter. Now, you can find new things, right? But reality is already there. Everything we need to do, everything we need to do in reality, I mean, it's all there already. You can't discover something. Like you're trying to discover it as a particle. It's already there. If it is there, you'll find it someday if you do it right. So what happens is we tend to find out reality. You don't want to find truth because people are now talking about their own truth, which is you want to find reality. What is reality? And I think that the universe on a quantum level is there to help you, and I will say God is there to help you, but it's not going to give you the answers. You have to work yourself into a position to be given the information on this intuitive quantum level and have it be manifest properly through your thinking, feeling, process. And this is what is being derailed by all these things, whether it be CNN, and all this, to QAnon or Planet X or the Flat Earth. I had a whole list of them written down somewhere where you have all throughout the time of me doing these shows, one after the other after the other. Guy talked about the guy with the comet that's supposed to hit the Earth and didn't. Then there was a lady who said that the sky was going to be on fire as the net that's blocking us from seeing everything was going to be ripped away from us, and the aliens were going to leave and go back to Ryan and all this stuff. And she gave dates, times, reasons how using EMF, and it didn't happen. So they're getting better at being able to come up with stories that last for, and they're close. Next week, any day now, it's happening, right? Wow, so you're all excited. But then something else will come and slip in front of that to take your attention away. It's like So to me, I think there's a place in hell for people like that who are screwing around, either by trade or by fun, screwing around and like that. So, that's going to be something people are going to deal with. So you're going to just have to be, honestly seeking all this stuff out. So I hope what I've done here is of some value. There might be people listening. I hope there are people listening going, yeah, I totally get it. I totally agree with it. I could have said all that. Good. I'm glad to hear it, I'm not saying I'm one bringing the torch of light into darkness, right? My thing is that I figure this stuff out, and it's obligation of me in this vehicle to lay it out there. I don't have to go knocking on doors. I don't have to go out. I just do it here in the show. It goes on the web. People see it. They've run into it through synchronicity, or somebody saves it, and it helps to whatever level or degree. My own prayer is to not get in the way of it, and to not contaminate it with where I want it to go. Because, I do want it to go where the good guys win, okay? But history is really against that. And if it does happen, it's usually for a season. What? Doesn't mean past performance not indicative of future gain or future loss, for that matter. So I do want to say one thing real quick about Bitcoin because of everybody was talking about Bitcoin when it was going on, it was almost at 20,000. Now it's vacillating between like 10 and 13,000. It's going up and down, up and down, up and down. And unfortunately, what I think has happened is it got into a routine where people are making money. They're day trading. So it takes a couple days in Bitcoin, but they're day trading. So it goes down, so you sell it at a high, say 13 something. It goes down to 10, you buy it. You just make, you go back up to 13, you just make $2,000, $3,000. People are making between $1.5 and $3,000 by watching this wave go up and down, and you could do it. I mean, I could be doing the same kind of thing, right? I want the long-term aspects of it. And talking with Lionel about this, it's his opinion that they're going to come on with ETFs, electronic trading funds, so you can buy a piece of Bitcoin. And that way, people who will put money, they can't afford $10,000, even at a low of $10,000, they can't afford $10,000 to buy the price. I couldn't do it. I bought real low, right? So I'm lucky. But they couldn't afford to buy $10,000. So what happens is somebody comes in with an ETF fund and says, we're going to buy Bitcoins and we're going to sell you shares. And so based on the price of Bitcoin, and I don't know how many they buy or what the deal, how it starts out, but how many shares they make, you can buy a piece of a Bitcoin, I don't know, I'm making this up, for $20. And if Bitcoin goes from 10 to 20,000, what it already was, your thing goes from $20 to $40. And so that the average person can buy shares. You want to buy more? You can buy 10 shares. So it goes from $200 to $400. And now you've made $200. You want to buy 1,000 shares. This is the point. So you can buy. So if Bitcoin now, because of that, Bitcoin has the ability to rise higher in price because there's people buying it long-term now. And they're not selling it in the vacillation. So as they vacillate, that one is being sold, is being bought by somebody to hold it long-term. And eventually, as you do that, the price will rise again. This is what I'm looking at. Now, I also want this to happen. I want the price to go up because I have my plans here and in retirement and whatnot. So I do have a vested interest in going up, but I'm not going to say that it will go up. I'm saying that I have thought about it, and this is a possibility. And this was information given to me by someone else. It wasn't even on my own mind, but the application came to me. At first, it was going up high because no one knew how high it could go. And they were looking at it being, 100,000, 500,000 a Bitcoin, and it could become the reserve currency of the world. It's very possible. Still could. But when it hit that 20 and there was a big sell-off, some of the people, I think that, I made a lot of money because I bought it at 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 or 500. I'm done. Whatever. And so people are now buying it and having it go up and down. If you want to, you can buy it, have it go up to 13, sell, pick it up at 10, and keep going like that. Or once you see it start to rise again is when you buy it. Of course, that's what shoots it up. So these people are doing this, and they're making $1,000 to $3,000 every couple of days. Now that aggravates me because I'm looking long term at it. But until that cycle stops for some other reason, and with a lot of the people trying to regulate around the world, there's nothing wrong with regulating. They're just trying to get their pound of flesh. They want their taxes. So the regulation says, we want you to spend money. We want you to make money because then we get taxes. So it's a question of the people who were looking to make money without paying taxes will be affected by that and so on. So I wanted to throw that up Bitcoin, think about what it is, see what you think. And of course, if you notice, Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum, they go the same way. They have their own cycle. And Ethereum went up a little higher and stayed higher. It's doing its cycle, but it used to be down here cycling, and now it's up here cycling. So, and Litecoin kind of went down in its cycling. But if you look at this, and I should have it up here, but I don't. If you look at the, I'll do it. I'll do it for now. It'll take me a second here. Because it's a good visual. Why don't they show the charts? There it is. Okay. Here we go. Let's go to the thing here, and I'll end it so you guys can go. Here's Bitcoin. And you can see when I go back, it's a month. Let's go. You see the cycles. This is the last month. This one went down pretty far, on its way up. All right, it went to 12 something, then it went down to 9, and now it's back on an up cycle. And you can see the net loss over the month is $3,000, but as you're buying and selling on whatever cycles you pick, now let me go back a year. Well, a year is funny because you go, but see, you see the peaks and valleys. That was the high one of now almost 20,000. And each time you get these are more major. But people are selling faster. Look at it. It's actually down $10,000. I guess I should have sold high. But again, I'm going long term. So this is the cycle. Now, if you look at the cycle, let me go to a week. All right. Now we're going to go look at Ethereum. Look at that. The same cycle. Do you see the difference? Bro, virtually the same cycle. Litecoin. The same cycle. So you could see this is what they're doing with it, is they're coming up with the same buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. And if the sell, buy goes down far, then you can start maybe get up a little higher. Well, it goes down again and higher. So eventually what you're going to need is you're going to need people who are buying in more long-term. And then and Coinbase, for example, is the biggest one in the U.S., and if you make over $20,000 in transactions or $250,000, then they will give that information to the IRS. That was a court rule that. So you'll have to claim, or you're supposed to claim. I mean, according to the law, anyway, you're supposed to claim it. So to me, it wasn't a big surprise. All right. I hope I help people with this stuff. I really love questions because then I could focus on dealing with a question rather than trying to do it myself. You know, this is let me address this, Ken. The market cap. There's a problem with the market cap because, and I brought this up to somebody, and they said, you look at Ripple, for example. I don't have a chart, and I can't get one real fast. Ripple is the number 2 or 3 highest market cap because there's 35 billion issues of Ripple, and it's about it was under $2. Right, so the market cap is high because of the money in on the issue. When you have Monero, there's just like 17 million Monero out there. So depending on Monero can go up to $200, $300, $400, $500, $600 versus $2, but they only got 17 million versus Ripple's 35 billion. So the market cap is higher on there, but you have to buy thousands of Ripple so to make the money you can make on Monero or Bitcoin or what have you. So the market cap is basically issue times cost. It's not like a cap. It's not like a cap, meaning a cap. It's market capital. How much is in the market? Well, it's going to be based on what the price is times issue. When you have stuff like NEO, for example, it's a Chinese currency, cryptocurrency, they're withholding issues. They're issuing so much, they're withholding issues. You can't mine it. So as the price goes up or whatever, they will start issuing one. So it's similar to, let's say, the dollar bill in that there's a set amount, but it's a high set amount. And they've only issued so much, so they can keep putting out, whereas Ripple, all out there. All 35 billion are out there. So they went from 35 cents when I first got them. It went up to almost like $4, and now it's back a little under $2. So that market share is going up and so on. So the market share doesn't reflect the market cap, I should say. It doesn't reflect the amount of money available in the stock. It is a result of the money being put in not the stock, the crypto. So if Bitcoin's price, for example, go back to this, if it goes up to 20,000 in the next week, the market capitalization is going to go through the roof. Anyway, let me. I can't. I'm gonna have to end this because I'm gonna be dribbling along here, and I want to. We don't have a list visible. Didn't come. We'll do that next week. It already went like 20 minutes later than I wanted to. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. Pass it along, and if you can find a piece I did before with all the Democrats saying how much they support stopping illegal immigration, clip that piece out, or use YouTube to start it at the beginning of that piece and share it, because people need to see all those people saying just the opposite in full living color. So, all right, I'm going to go here, and God bless, and we'll see you next time.